Hello everyone. In this video, I will show you how I paint Marvel Crisis Protocol bases in a Asgard Rainbow Bridge theme. I use these for my Asgard affiliated models, such as Thor and Angela, Valkyrie, whoever. Also, if you're running an Asgard roster, any unaffiliated models that are in your roster, if you wanted them to fit theme, I could see you placing an unaffiliated model on these Rainbow Bridge bases as well. Alright, let's jump into it. We are going to start off by painting our red layer on the base. Now for this I use Citadel's Evil Sun's Scarlet, but any red would work. And we're going to try to paint these strips, these colored strips, in equal proportion. That way we don't see too much of one color over the other. And I like to start with red, and I'll go a little bit further than what I want the strip to be. And then I'll paint the orange over it, overlapping a little bit of the red. I don't know if this creates a better transition, but it just leaves no white. So we'll move on to the orange, and we'll just start painting these on. In my other videos where I paint bases, you'll see me using masking tape to paint the lines. But with this, I feel like freehanding is fine. If you wanted to use masking tape to get super straight lines, you could. But it would take a really long time, and I have done it. It does look crisp, but it doesn't look anything better than just what the normal, freehand layers are. And for our orange, I'm using Vallejo's Orange Fire, but again, you could use any orange that you want. Now moving on to our yellow, I'm using Citadel's Everland Sunset. I like this yellow because it's a little bit darker, but it still is a pretty good yellow. Now, moving on to green, I use Vallejo's Intermit Green. You'll see me just go ahead and paint this in full coverage in the strip. Again, going a little bit over how much I want, because it's going to be covered up with the blue later on. As you can see, I'm just trying to get a smooth, even coverage of the color throughout the base. We don't want to leave any white on the base because that'll affect how it looks later on. Moving on to our blue color, I'm going to be using Ultramarine Blue by Vallejo. I'm using this blue because it's a little bit on the darker side, like some of the other colors I've used before. I want to use darker colors when doing this base coat because we're going to highlight it up super bright, and the dark to bright ratio will look really good. For our last color in the base coating process, it's going to be purple. I'm going to be using Zurius Purple by Citadel. I think that's how you pronounce it, but go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong. Once our base coat has finished, we're going to go ahead and do a Knoll Oil wash over the entire base. When doing this wash, we really want to put an emphasis on the cracks and crevices of the base. This is going to create a really high contrast when we do the highlighting, the edge highlighting later on in the video. So we want these cracks and crevices to be as dark as possible. After my base is dry, if the cracks and crevices aren't dark enough, I'll even go with a fine tip brush and just line in Knoll Oil to make them darker. After the Knoll Oil wash has dried, the base is going to be a little bit too dark for my liking. I'm going to come back in with each of the base coat colors. And I'm going to use either dry brushing or stippling to bring up the brightness back to the color's original look. I'm going to avoid the cracks and crevices or any like chips in it to keep it dark in certain spots. But overall, I'm going to do a decent amount of coverage, bringing the color back up to its original look. And you're going to see me doing this with each color. So red to orange to yellow to green to blue to purple. I'm going to do it with each color. Once we've brought in the base coat colors up to the amount of coverage that we want, and they're the brightness that we want, we're going to move on to edge highlighting each strip of color. For each of them, or for most of them I should say, I'm going to take the original base coat color and I'm going to add a lot of white to it to make it really bright, whereas for green, blue, and yellow, I'll be doing something just a little bit different. In addition to the edge highlights that we're going to be doing, we're also going to go through the middle of the colors, and we're going to put these little dash marks to give it the effect that it's like giving off light or gleaming. For the blue edge highlights, instead of adding white to the ultramarine blue, which comes out a little dull looking, we're just going to use Vallejo's electric blue. And this is one of my favorite blues. So for the green, I'm going to take Flash Grit's yellow and I'm going to mix it in with the mint green. And I'm going to get it to a yellowish green, and I'm going to add a dash of white just to bring up the brightness. That's because I don't want a minty looking green to be on the rainbow color. I want it to kind of be brighter but still have some pigment into it. And that's where this really bright Flash Grits yellow comes in handy. For the yellow itself, I'm going to be using Moon Dust yellow from Army Painter. The reason I use this yellow is because it's really bright. It's like near white, and it has a different undertone feel. It's a little bit more on the cooler side. where sun sets more on the warmer side. So it'll give a good level of contrast for that one. The last step after the edge highlighting is finished is we're just going to come in and line out the cracks and crevices with mineral oil and do a black trim around the base. So there you have it, our Asgard Rainbow Bridge bases. As you can see, I put a couple of Asgard models on them just to give you a clear view of what it looks like. I have Thor, Angela, and Scourge here, with, smaller bases and the medium bases as well. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and feel free to ask me any questions about them.